You haven't used the radio button control yet in this course, but it's likely that you've seen radio buttons while browsing the internet. Radio buttons are very similar to checkboxes, but only allow the user to choose one option at a time. You'll learn more about the radio button control in this lesson. To begin, open the My Project sample file from your Sample Files folder. And open controlstest.aspx in Design View. Now add a radio button control to the page. A placeholder containing the ID property is shown in exactly the same way as with the checkbox control. Next, you'll need to set the properties of your new radio button. Set the ID property to Radio Button Choice 1 and set the text property to Choice 1. Now add another radio button to the page, placing it below the first one. Set its ID property to Radio Button Choice 2 and set its text property to Choice 2. Now view controlstest.aspx in your web browser. When the page appears, try clicking on each of the radio buttons. Both options become selected with no way to deselect them. This isn't the way you want things to work. This happened because you haven't told the two radio button controls that they belong to the same group. Close your browser now, and you're going to assign the two radio buttons to the same group. Select the first radio button and set its group name property to Choices. Then select the second radio button control and set its group name to the same thing, Choices. Now view the page in your browser again and try clicking on each of the radio buttons. This time, you're only able to select one choice at a time, which is how radio buttons are supposed to work. Note that if you had used a radio button list control instead, the group name properties would have been set automatically. The radio button list control is similar to the checkbox list control, as it allows you to create a group of radio buttons in the same way as you'd create a drop-down list control. In most cases, the radio button list control is preferable to the radio button control, as it automatically assigns the radio buttons to the same group. The events for all of the radio buttons are also grouped together. Close your browser now, and you're going to make the first choice selected by default. Select the Choice 1 radio button and set its checked property to True. The first choice is now selected by default. Finally, you're going to add a checked changed event handler to your radio button. Select Radio Button Choice 1 and add a checked changed event handler. To do this, click the Events button in the Properties window and double-click in the empty box next to Checked Changed. This event handler will fire when the first radio button control is checked or unchecked. Add the following code to the new event handler: response.write radio button choice 1 .checked .toString. This code will write either true or false onto the screen, depending on whether radio button choice 1 is selected or not. View controlstest.aspx in your web browser again, and try clicking on each of the radio button controls. As with the checkbox control, the radio button control doesn't automatically post back by default, so nothing happens. Close your browser now and return to controlstest.aspx in Design View, and then set the Auto Postback property of both of the radio button controls to True. Now view the page in your browser once more, and try clicking on each of the radio button controls. The event handler works when you click on Choice 1, but nothing happens when you click on Choice 2. This is because, although Choice 2 is causing a postback, it doesn't have an event handler. This could be easily fixed by giving the radio button Choice 2 control a checked changed event handler as well. Close your browser now and close Visual Studio. You've now completed Lesson 4.6. Use the radio button control.